Welcome to the Mike and Alison After Hours podcast with your hosts, Mike Sheila and Alison Haas, talking business with real business owners in the Mid-Atlantic region. Today's episode is sponsored by Advantage Industries. When you need business technology, get Advantage Industries to protect and promote your business. To learn more, go to www.getadvantage.com and schedule your first meeting to see if you qualify for a free network scan.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mike and Alison After Hours. I am your host, Mike Sheila, and with me is my dynamic and precocious co-host, Alison Haas. Alison, how the heck are you today? It's great to see you.
I love it. New adjectives.
New adjectives. I'm going to strive to have new adjectives every week.
Better you than me. I'm great. Here.
So to our listening audience, just wanted to take a moment again, say thank you so much for watching the show on YouTube and also for listening to the show on your favorite podcast platform, whether that is iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Stitcher, Audible, Pandora, TuneIn Radio. I'm sure I forgot a few because we're practically everywhere now, but we are so grateful for you. And as I have mentioned the last couple of episodes, that is why we are giving you a chance to win a copy of Alison's book, The Addict in Aisle 7. So make sure that you drop a comment on your favorite platform, give us a like, share us on social media. And next week, we are going to announce the lucky winner. Alison's going to autograph it for you. She's going to write a little personal note in there, and then she's going to mail it right to your door. So we just wanted to say thank you all so much for being listeners and watching the show and helping us spread the word. And you will notice that our catalog of guests, including Paola Moya, who you can see on the screen right now and is patiently waiting for us to introduce her, has been all about the business owner here in the Mid-Atlantic market. And that is always going to be our roots. You know, Alison and I both do business in the Mid-Atlantic. That's where our customers are. That's where we feel we do the most good and we make the most impact. But I have to tell you, Alison and I have some really fun stuff coming up in the next couple of months for you. We are going to be doing a few themed episodes. So we're going to do one around building marketing for your business. We're going to do one around networking for your business. We're going to do one around finance for your business. And we're getting subject matter experts in all these different fields to come on to the show and talk to us. And equally important, we have some super dynamic guests coming up with big name organizations for you. So the first one that jumps out to me, Alison, is we've got Marianne Scully, the president and CEO of Howard Bank, coming on in a few weeks.
I know. That's amazing.
And then this spring, we are doing a program with leaders in higher education. So check this out, folks. All right, because you're going to want to tune in. We have Dr. Freeman Hrabowski from UMBC as a guest coming up this spring. We have Dr. Kim Schatzel, president of Towson University, coming up as a guest on this show. And we also have Dr. Nito Cobain, who is the president of High Point University. My daughter is a freshman at High Point University, so I use that as leverage to get Dr. Cobain to come on the show. And these people, brilliant leaders, they're literally not only a business leader, but they're mayors of small cities, right? Mm-hmm. So the dynamics that come into that and how they're preparing the next wave of business professionals to come and work for organizations like mine or organizations like Alison's or organizations like Paola's. So since I've said Paola's name about a dozen times now, let me formally introduce to you our fantastic guest this week. Paola Moya is the founder and CEO at Moya Design Partners. So Moya Design Partners is a diverse studio of architects, designers, and innovators that specializes in all-inclusive design services in architecture, interiors, graphic design, and brand strategy. And all-inclusive design means fresh, purposeful, sophisticated design solutions that are incorporated into each aspect of the project's life cycle, developed alongside the client with the end users at its core. So Paola Moya, thank you so much for being on the show today. Welcome.
Wow. Mike, thank you. Alison, thank you so much. It's great to be this morning with you, and I appreciate welcoming to your show in this cold day of almost February. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's cold enough to make the skin on your face hurt today.
Yes, it is. I was out really early, and I had to jog back because I'm out longer, and the dogs didn't either. So it's
That's
crazy.
nothing new for you. You jog every day, Alison. You're
Fair
a
enough.
fit.
Fair enough. But I made it. I made it short. We'll just put it that way.
All right, so folks, we are going to jump right in, and I'm going to take Paola through the first phase, which is who, what, where, when, why, how. And then Alison is going to talk to Paola about leadership and about starting her company. So Paola's story is fascinating. She's been in this industry now for close to 2 decades, but she only started her own firm just a few years ago. So learning about, why she made that leap, the challenges she faced. If any of you are regular listeners, you know that we're getting this story every time. And it's exhilarating. It's a little scary, but it's always fun and entertaining. So Paola, the who, what, where, when, why, how section of the show. This is really us learning about you, the nuts and bolts, the basics. So when I say who is Paola Moya, you can talk to me personally. You can talk to me professionally. We've talked about people that have started their businesses, that they're dog lovers, that they're book readers, that they love to go to the gym. So let's start there. Who is Paola Moya?
Well, Paola, it's an architect that was born and raised in Bogota, Colombia. I came to United States with my entire family. And at that point, at the age of 18, I had already started my education in Colombia. I actually wanted to be an attorney. And when I came to United States, I realized that we had to start from scratch many things, right?
Yeah.
It took probably 4 years by the time that I was able to study back again because I was taking care of my parents, my siblings financially. So it's the American dream, right? We all have to work hard. And it was I think the dream that I had was really go back to school. After saving, I was able to go to Montgomery College. And then that didn't mean that I could just quit working and then just focus on study. Perhaps like many people, which is great to have that flexibility. But my case was a little bit different, and I embraced that journey. I was able to study and work full time. I got the opportunity to be an assistant to the project manager at a design build firm, Georgetown Design Group, and I was able to learn all the behind the scenes of running a firm, between contracts and managing staff. And I really started from zero to just get an idea of how the business worked. At the same time, I was studying and learning more about my profession. When I graduated from Montgomery College in 2015, I was able to transfer in my department to the design group, and I transferred to Catholic University. I continue working and studying as well, almost full time. And then after that, I transferred to the master's program. And it was just a great journey because I knew that I had to, in a way, catch up with the time that I had invested into, starting a new life here in the United States. And then in 2009, I was able to start a firm with a business partner where we pretty much started from zero to doing some cool projects in DC. One of our first projects was the Howard Theater, and that was such a great project. It's one of the oldest African American theaters in the States. And then we had clients like the Department of General Services to do some schools in the district. We were able to work with MGM. And then what was interesting is that my focus and love was truly getting to understand the growing the business, right? In a way, I was an entrepreneur and an architect, and I had to learn very quickly those two. In 2015, the one skill set that I did not quite understood at that time was business development. And as we were finishing projects, I understood that, oh my goodness, we don't have any new projects. that was a very challenging moment because we had to pretty much let go 50% of our staff. We still have to take care of all of our financial responsibilities, and all the work had to continue. I think that when we are faced with challenges in our life, that is where we really learn exponentially. And the stress, of course, the pain, it's higher than in a regular lecture, but it put a lot of things in perspective. It not only put the fact that you have the responsibility of a team, you have the responsibility to the clients, but mostly that you often forget is that you have a responsibility with yourself. I realized that after all of those years, I did not have time for me. I really worked from Monday through Sunday, possibly 12 to 16 hours every day. And maybe some people do it, and a lot of, we have a lot of people that do that, but it's important also to take time to invest in your family, your entrepreneur, your friends, your anyone that is around you, and yourself. And that's where I started having a different lens of what it is to running a business and also continuing with your life. So between 2015 to 2017, it was a lot of thinking about how I wanted to run the business or what did I wanted to do. 2017, just the universe conspires, right, to make things happen, like the Alchemist said in his book. But I will say that the journey that got me there, it has led to a great outcome, which is my new company. I was able to set it up the way that I really dream of. I wanted to bring more partners into the company, and recently we had 2 new partners. Being able to travel, so I was able to set up the company completely cloud-based, so that we can always access information through our phone or through our computer, and work globally. So one of the things is that we now more than ever understood in this pandemic is that we are connected. We all are suffering the same things. We're all learning different things. But having that global connection allowed me to really work with graphic designers, architects, people with different backgrounds. And currently it's been 3 years, and I started the company. Right now we're about 35 people. We work with people from all over the world that has been with me full time for 3 years now. And it's a great collaboration because it allows us to really get the best experts at their field and be able to deliver our product quickly to our clients. And with all of that, I was able to, be able to enjoy doing things that were not related with my field, like going into marathons. I started to run in 2018, and 2019, I say, what if I run one marathon every month, which is every 4 weeks you do a long distance. And I did that. I was able to run 6 marathons in 2019. And unfortunately, this year has been a little bit different. But having that, you need to have something else that is not just work, something for you, whether it's a hobby, whether it's something else that really keeps your brain going. So that was something that I started new, and that's my journey so far.
Mike, I think you invited her because we're kindred spirits.
I was just going to say, wow, if you and our listening audience, if you were not taking furious notes, rewind and go back and listen to the last 10 minutes. There was so much in there. I want to just hit just 2 or 3 things, because otherwise we're going to take the entire hour with this piece. So starting from zero, so many business owners, they have that fear because that is often a necessary evil, right? Starting from zero. So brilliant. I love that you brought that up and that you faced that fear and you dealt with it. And the notion of you worked furiously through college, not just academically, but, putting food on the table. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I have a daughter that's a freshman in college right now. And we are fortunate enough that, for the most part, she doesn't have to work when she's in school. We have made a focus on having the money set aside. But my daughter will tell us, I was in the lab till midnight on Friday working on a project. So there's different kinds of work. And then on the flip side of that, I have a niece who's about to graduate from York College. And she doesn't have quite the financial acumen that we do. So she works her tail off. She has a retail job. She typically works 30, 40 hours a week and carries a full course load of classes.
Wow.
And the work ethic that comes out of that, you can't teach that. It's only learned through experience. So absolutely phenomenal. And the last thing that I want to key on that you said was business development. Yeah, Alison and I talk about this all the time. And really, when we started the show, that was our first thought. There is no magic bullet to finding new customers. It takes a lot of hard work, takes a little dumb luck, some good timing, and it's persistence and it's perseverance. And what we've tried to do with this show is help people understand a little bit more about the sales process without having to become a salesman, because as the president of your company, you wear a dozen hats on a good day. And sales is just one of them, and that's a critical piece of your business, but it's only one piece. So, hopefully our listening audience got some of those things, because they resonated powerfully with me. And you did a brilliant job of going through who, what, where, when, why, how. The only thing that I'm going to ask pointedly from that, and then I'll let Alison take you to the next segment, is you mentioned your customers are global, but you're located here, right in Maryland, correct?
We are in DC.
Okay,
in DC.
You're in the DC metro area, correct? All right, great. So very easy to get a hold of. And that's my last question for you is, if someone listening to our show was interested in having you do architectural design for their business, what is the best way to get a hold of you or your organization?
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. The best thing will be at any time, people are in different time zones. The best thing will be sending me a note via email. And that is Paola, Paola, at moyadesignpartners.com. That will be the easiest way. We also have a website that if anyone is interested to see our portfolio, that's moyadesignpartners.com. And we are available to pretty much answer any questions related to commercial architecture. We do multifamily projects. We do institutional, so schools. We do office buildings, commercial interiors, and then visual design, so branding and collateral and that kind of work. So if anyone is interested, we're more than welcome to look at what they have in mind.
Wonderful. And for our audience, I will make sure that her contact information is in the show notes, so it's clickable. All you got to do is click it in the show notes, and you can get connected directly to Paola. All right,
Thank you.
Alison, take us through the leadership segment. This is going to be fantastic.
I'm so stoked, and I'm sincere. There's so much alignment here between you and I. Initially I was listening to that work-life balance, and the only way to know it's not there is to experience it, right? So, you're working and you're grinding 12 to 16 hours a day, and there's nothing left over for you, right? And I'm a firm believer, if I don't fill my cup first, nobody gets any of it, right? And it's hard to find that balance as an entrepreneur and a leader, to have it and then to keep up with it and maintain it. And I know for me, the pendulum's always swinging, right? And the only way to know that it's off kilter is to let it get off kilter, and then you recalibrate. So I was a business owner for 8 years, working more than 12 to 16 hours days, no weekends, right? And the only way I figured out that I didn't want that life for myself is to get to the end and be exhausted and not have it anymore. So I really respect you placing yourself and quality of life ahead. And I think that's important for the audience to know, that, if you continue to sacrifice yourself to the point where you have nothing left, everyone eventually gets the short end of the stick, right? Your customers, your employees, and it's really hard to navigate that balance. So how have you done that as a leader to continue to place yourself in a position to be your best self?
I will think that this is similar to, so another passion of mine is martial arts, which I didn't get, I studied when I was younger, took a long break, and pretty much in 2015, I said, you know what, that was something that I love, let me take it back again, and I start doing a little bit of Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. But just like I think life is like a fight, like a good fight, and I say it. In order to get to a good fight, you have to condition yourself and you have to train. The best way to do that is that investment that you do in yourself. So in order to have the best performance in your life, whether with your family, whether it is a nonprofit organization, for profit, whatever, things that you are doing, like you say, you have to start with you first. And a lot of people might sound selfish, and I think that it's okay. We need to give ourselves that thumbs up, that yes, permission. You have permission to be selfish. There is a lot of correlation between exercising, between both strength training to cardiovascular to your brain. It literally tells you by research that it affects tremendously. So your focus, the way that you are able to perform, whether it's scientific reasons or whether it's that overall speaking you feel better, when you have a better mood, you're able to understand the challenge that you're about to face with a more rational perspective. So whether that is a fire, right? I always think that my job is, there is always fire around, and it's normal, and I embrace that, right? There is always something that is you have to answer, but I knew that in the years that I started working owning a firm. So what do? I one of the things that I started including in my daily habit is that morning exercise. If I don't go out or if I don't exercise, I just feel like more like heavier during the day. When I am able to just get that sweat or just something that it starts training your body, it's just different. And a second habit that I start doing more lately is meditation. It's quite interesting how much we think all the time and different thoughts.
It's hard to
and
stop.
multitasking, right? But
Yep.
it's very hard to stop.
Yeah.
It's so hard to stop. It's so hard to just focus on one thing, for instance. Like before, without technology, we were able to focus on a few things. Now we have 5 different tablets or a computer, or if it's a TV, your laptop, your iPad, and then your cell phone, and then something else, like at the same time. So that is very important, having that time for yourself. And it's just that, or sometimes if you want to do dancing, it doesn't have to be a particular thing, but just have that like mindset, and then just that physical mobility is important.
You are preaching to the choir. Mike mentioned, my jogging daily, which is as paused in the moment, but I'm an athlete. So I would talk fitness all day, and I would attribute my success as a businesswoman and as a professional salesperson and as a good human to my absolute dedication, commitment, and passion to moving my body. And you could argue that I take it a little bit to another level. I am a former ultra runner and obstacle course racer and bodybuilder competitively. I've literally done pretty much everything. And so my problem is like not having laser focus on a competition or something on the calendar that then takes me away from time with others. Right. And while no means is that right, being goal oriented, but what is my intention behind it? So I am on board with you. And I think it does. It makes me better. It makes me more present. I will say for a fact, I'd be heavily medicated if I didn't exercise because, it takes those top few layers off my anxiety and my compulsive thinking, and I think in today's digital world, it's almost impossible not to be a compulsive doer or thinker. And that's been my struggle lately. Like, I don't have a physical cutoff anymore where I get in the car and I drive to a meeting to sit with someone, or I'm driving to the office and I'm interacting with others. It's me here on a screen all day, and then a lot of the other parts of my life have gone to the screen. So we have to work harder to pay attention to our internal selves and needs. And so I would love to then extend that part of the conversation to your team. Have you always, I hear you've always been virtual, right? So this was a blessing for you almost without knowing that it would be, heading into a pandemic where the rest of us had to figure this out. You're 10 steps ahead of us. So what has it been like to have a team underneath you, and what do you think attributes to a great team?
Well, a few of us are actually in the metropolitan area, so we have about 10 people or so that are in the area, and we used to go to the office. But people go to the office when they need to, or if there is a meeting, right? You don't have to go if you don't need to. So I think that was something different, which people were surprised. And are you sure you don't want me to go? It's totally okay, because we are busy, and there might be a gap in the morning, but sometimes people take it in the evening. I mean, it's just the responsibility that we have, and the trust that is important to have in your team members. So yes, you're right. Serendipity. We started this setup of being, using technology to be more efficient. But when COVID hit in March, where we had to stay home, it was not different for us. Granted that there are many families that have kids at home, so it's quite a challenge, right? Once you have to take care of others and also you are working. But it's important, and I tell the team, we also have something that I tell often the team is have time also to get out, even if it's just a walk in the park. Have time to do other activities and continue to live in the safest possible way. If there is any stress, we have services that our team can call if they need to call someone. Both mental and physical, to take care of those two things are very, very important for us. And that's something as well that just as I do it, I also extend that to the entire team. So the challenges of this digital interaction is that, right, you don't have that human, interaction, and that's very important. But this is not going to be something that will last forever. And I think that it's always the lens how you see things. There is always something positive of this. Always something.
Love that.
There has to be always something positive. Yep. It is. It's a great opportunity to really look at your values, to understand what was important to, or who do you want to spend time with. Yes. What is that? What is important for me? Like, there are so many things. How to be creative when you have these challenges, right? So it's a great opportunity, and whenever we are into the next phase, we are going to look at this as, I remember this. I don't have to go to the office as often as I had to, or like we can do many things, but it's really how we see life, and we have to appreciate where we are.
Absolutely. So a final question, or maybe two, but I would love to hear what you would say to your younger self with what you know now.
Yes. And it's something that I continue to, there are two things. One is patience and faith. When I say patience, is that in order to be a driven person, you always want to feel like, let's go, we have to accomplish, we have to do it. So it's a good thing that we have that. But if the outcome is not always what you imagine it to be patient, because it's okay. When I look back and I think, oh, I worry so much about all these things that never came to fruition. And now as I'm meditating, and those are the teachings that in our brain, there are so many worries that we have that almost 90% of them do not come to fruition, never come to fruition. So we are constantly adding data in our brains about negative things. But what if it's always positive? So we are a reflection of what we think. And one of the things is to be less worried. Doesn't mean to be irresponsible or less attentive, but trust the universe that every single thing that comes to your way is for a reason.
Oh, I don't need any more personally. And I will say, some of the audience is going to be like, Alison, stop it already. But you will appreciate this. So every morning I pull a card, right? I actually pull two. I pull one upstairs where I try not to dive into electronics before I get my day started. I start with a reading to get my mind focused on something, right? And when I come down here, before I open my computer, I'm like, I just need a little bit more. So I pull a different card from another box. And today's card is, when I'm patient, I let the universe do for me what I cannot do for myself.
Exactly.
And so you talked about patience, which the lesson of my lifetime, right? Slow down, pause, chill out, wait it out. And then you also mentioned, the connectivity that is the universe and all of the things that ultimately really are for our good. So I'm like, I'm going to share this because she's just kind of brought that full circle. So I mentioned The Alchemist. I recently thought of that book that I need to revisit it. Fantastic read. Would that be a book you'd recommend to our audience listening, or is there another one that comes to mind that you'd like to mention?
Yes, that is a great book. And another one that I find fascinating that I'm reading, and it was just released, is Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Precisely, just released a book about the brain, and I am just reading as much as possible because it's so fascinating that everything comes through there, and there are so many things that we can do. So there are like 5 things that you need to do, and one of them is nourish, just eating healthy. That's just an easy thing, but it really helps you to avoid any of the fears that we have for Alzheimer's, or not having a brain that performs well into our 80s or 90s, whatever that age. It could be in your 60s, but exercising, and not just something that pumps your heart, but also that exercises your muscles. Like, that is the number one thing, that if at least you don't get anything, that is the one thing that will help you perform better in your brain. And there are other tips there, but I find that book really interesting.
And what was it called? I heard Dr. Gupta is the author, but I didn't catch the title.
Yes, I am going to give you that book name now. Give me just a moment. It's Keep Sharp. It's the name of the book. Keep Sharp by Sanjay Gupta.
Well, I am impressed because you mentioned 2 books that I am not familiar with. So they will absolutely be in the show notes, and I will be making an Amazon purchase, I think, after this episode today. So Paola, thank you so much for being on the show today. I love when we reach out to people that we don't know, but Alison and I do this on a regular basis. We'll identify someone and say, I bet you they'd be a good guest. Yep. We know nothing else other than, we can, basically we look at your LinkedIn profile, we look at your company, we look at where you're located, and we go, they would make a good guest. And to find the synergies that you've brought to the conversation today, you've just reinforced about a dozen themes that Alison and I frankly nerd out about almost every episode. So Paola, thank you so much for being on the show today. We were exceptionally grateful to have you.
Yes,
the pleasure was mine, and thank you for just the opportunity to interact this morning. What a blessing! Thank you.
Yes, fantastic. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, what a fantastic segment, huh, Allison?
Yeah, that was amazing.
I mean, and I noted this a little bit when Paola first came on. Just the synergies, everything that we talk about. So I want to key in on a couple of things that I heard her say during your segment that really struck me. One is meditating, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because that's something that I struggle with. So when I was a little kid, I was diagnosed with ADHD. Although back then they just called it hyperactive.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave me Ritalin.
Yep.
They gave me Ritalin to help me focus. And I quote unquote outgrew that when I was a teenager. If I'm being candid with my lovely listening audience, I probably still have ADHD. And the number one indicator to me is getting my mind silent is exceptionally difficult for me. And like Paola said, we worry about so many things. Over 90% of them never actually happen. Mm-hmm. And the 10% that does happen is usually not nearly as bad as what we expected. So I read a couple of great books. And I think, Alison, I gave you Buddhist Boot Camp. Did I give you?
That's my next. Tell you,
Timber Hawkeye is nothing short of brilliant. I love that man. And Buddhist Boot Camp, and then he wrote a sequel to it. The name of it is escaping me, but I devoured that as well. And that got me on the track to explore, what Buddhism actually means. And so I ended up reading this book that was co-written by the Dalai Lama and one of the premier emotional intelligence doctors in the industry. It was either Paul Ekman or Daniel. I'm forgetting which one co-wrote it with him. But I'll put that one in the show notes as well, because what was fascinating to me was to hear the Dalai Lama explain presence and being in the moment and being able to focus. And then the scientist coming in and explaining the chemicals behind that, the science behind that.
It's fascinating.
So, people will say, oh, well, Buddhism is, it's a crack religion. And, I'm willing to bet that anybody could make that argument about any religion on the planet. But when you look at Buddhism, it's not about a deity. It's not about theism. It's really about a practice and a mindset. So whether you want to accept the beliefs of Buddha or not, if you read that book, it gives you tremendous insight into what they call monkey brain is doing on a regular basis. What about you, Alison? What did you take away from Paola's commentary today?
Oh, well, first, I'm going to comment on meditating, just because, I like to throw you off at all times. But I've been taught meditation is listening, right? So I've also been taught that prayer and meditation kind of go together. And when I say prayer, I don't necessarily mean from a religious context. I mean asking the universe and whatever powers it be for X, Y, or Z. And it's not like, hey, I'd love to win the lottery today. For me, it's how do I be most useful in my life? How do I be present? How do I show up? Show me the truth. And I am great at asking for assistance from the universe. I have not always been as diligent at waiting and listening for the answer. I think
you're impatient like me. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a doer. Like, I don't want to feel, I want to do and execute and think and analyze, because I think if I can figure out why, then I'll somehow be insulated from whatever kind of worry, fear, harm may come my way. And so I've actually been taught that meditating is simply listening and watching my thoughts, not trying to stop them, but watch them and then get underneath of them and ask if they are even true. And so I've tried to develop a practice. My meditation for me is typically outside moving. And that's why long distance running has been a thing for me, because I get really clear by the end of that, because there's nothing else I outrun my thoughts in theory, right? Which is why the distance continued to get longer and longer. And now I've translated that into more strength, but it's a way to get very focused and clear, and very present. However, as Mike knows, I broke my leg, a couple falls ago. So my mode of meditation was taken from me. I could not go outside and walk. I couldn't walk at all. I couldn't put any weight on my right leg. So I was then challenged and given the opportunity to sit with Alison for real, like literally. I had to sit. And so, just watching the incessant thinking and the compulsive thinking. And I will say, honestly, it is worse now than it was when I had a broken leg, because I think I personally do better with a challenge because the task is here, right? I'm dealing with it at hand. I've been armed with a foundation of good tools to do the next right thing in the moment when the challenge is here. For me, it's when the challenge seems to be out there far away that my brain is just consternating, right? And so for now, like I said, with the extension of digital all the time and no physical break, my thinking is off the freaking charts. And so I have a blog, as you know, and so audience, hey, touting my own horn, I also have a blog. And
I speak truths, yeah.
If yes. So if you follow along, yesterday's post was about how I am nuts right now because, the brain is thinking, right? And I'm thinking, and COVID has stripped away my normal outlets like competing and racing. And so like my thinking, and I'm focusing on things that don't really matter, but my brain for me is, thinking, it's just doing its job. That's what our brain is there for, to think, and then at some point to protect us. So, what I took away is from the conversation today is the reminder that I could still come first. And so, selfish, yes, but we have to be. That's what self-care is. Self-care is selfish because if we don't put our needs ahead, right? Oxygen mask on the plane first, nothing else matters. It all goes down and no one gets saved. But if I put my oxygen mask on first, then I can tend to my children, then I can tend to my partner, then I can tend to my mother, right? I can tend to my clients. So clearly my brain is exploding with things that I took away, but just that reminder also that when I do take care of myself first, I get clear about the ability to be patient and that everything is working for me, not against me, right? And then I can genuinely think about what it must feel like to be my business owner right now on the other side of the table. I can genuinely think about what it must feel like to be their employees and the family members of those employees, right? Instead of just what do I need right now from this conversation? It's like, no, put yourself on the other side of the table. And when I do that, I can immediately get trust and respect, and it just slows it down to the pace that it's supposed to be instead of this urgent transactional tendency that we all have in this life.
Yeah, you brought up a couple of great things there that I want to wrap around sort of a business perspective. And I think sometimes people will listen to you and I and go, what does any of this have to do with business? And in a short answer, all of it.
Yeah.
Because it starts with you as the person. It really does. And Alison comment on specifically on something around meditation, how she does it, how it's effective for her. And she and I can't meditate the same way. And that's okay. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try it.
Right.
And you talked about being goal oriented. And I remember early on in my sales career, I had a sales manager that said something about being competitive. And I said to him, I'm not competitive. He goes, oh my God, Mike, you're one of the most competitive people I know. I'm like, I am? Because I didn't understand that the things that I was saying and my actions and the things that I did were from a desire to compete and to win. And your comment about being goal oriented, some people absolutely need that. Right. That's what puts the gas in their tank. That's what makes them go.
Yep.
I can't say that I'm sure goals impact me somehow, but I'm not saying this to be flippant, but I kind of view it more like somebody who's in AA. I literally look at, what's today? What's in front of me? Because if I take care of today,
Yep.
then that's going to cascade out to the things that need to happen tomorrow and the next day. The big rocks. We talk about that all the time.
Right.
But some people just need to be able to check that box.
Yeah.
They need to be able to take 10 minutes in the beginning of the day, write down their top 10 and go, this is what I'm going to do. And then while getting to the end of that list, they feel accomplished. So to our audience today, for you business owners, for you business leaders, two things I want you to take away from this conversation today is the way you're doing things is not wrong. It's different. And you can probably take something from what I said today, from what Paola said today, and from what Alison said today, and incorporate it into your daily activities. And then there was a comment in there about doing things that are uncomfortable. And Alison, I know you are the queen of being uncomfortable. So I'm curious to know your thoughts about that piece.
Yeah, well, first, just piggybacking off the goal-oriented aspect, that's why I like a written business plan, not just let's see what happens, let's hope for the best, right? Because the more you can dial in a vision and write it down on paper, the more likely you're going to act your way into succeeding on that vision, even if the details get a little muddied in between. But to what you said, we start with our annual goals, then we break it down quarterly, monthly, which can then be broken down into daily, which, to your point, if I do what I'm supposed to do today, and I genuinely,
what's that one thing?
Yeah. Yep, what I'm supposed to do today, I can trust that the results are going to take care of themselves. If I do the activities that will yield themselves successful to those results, then I can let go of what I did. But if I don't have my overarching goal, I can't even drill down back to the daily. And I used to be hyper focused on daily without like the big why on the other side. But as you know, as a competitor, that loves to be uncomfortable, having that goal and then drilling back down, going backward, it's really helpful. And then it reminds me on the days that this does not feel good. Why am I doing this? Is answering your question for me, then I can go back and say, oh, that's why. Right. And if I do it today, it's going to get me closer to tomorrow. And then that goal of whatever it is. And so, I wrote a book. Right. And so I'm often asked, like, how'd you do that? How'd you get started?
Seriously, and with bounds of passion.
Yes. And yeah, in all different topics, which I don't know if that makes me nuts or just, vertical. So I'm like, just start writing. Well, I'm afraid this and that. It's like, of course, we're all afraid, but do it anyway, right? People think that you will somehow wake up one day, and this is obviously a blanket statement, not targeted at any one person or humans, but that you're gonna feel better one day and not have that fear anymore. And the reality is, from my experience, I act my way out of that fear. I don't think my way out of that fear. I don't get inspired or motivated by hoping and wishing for that fear to go away, but I act my way out of it, right? And I act my way through it. So, it's not because I'm braver than you, I just act in spite of, and so like with the discomfort, if I don't pick up the phone as a salesperson often enough, the phone gets scary, right? Because I hear no a hell of a lot more than I hear yes, right? And no, I won't meet you. No, I don't want to hear what you have to say. No, I'm not interested. I respect why you say that. I do it too. When a salesperson calls me, I'm like, no, not interested. I don't even know what they have, right? It's just a default mechanism that we've put in place to protect ourselves from BS, right? I don't have time. So, like if I don't pick up the phone often enough, it gets uncomfortable. Well, the only way to then pick it up again is to do it anyway and be uncomfortable, right? And to be willing to hear no, to be willing to leave messages and feel like you make no sense whatsoever. And, physically, I love being uncomfortable. I mean, I don't know why, but like it has made me more resilient, right? And more present and more compassionate. And it empowers the hell out of me, right? Because if I can get through that, I can get through anything. If I can run 31 miles in Lake Tahoe while it's snowing at 10,000 feet of elevation, over 70 obstacles, and swim in that godforsaken cold ass lake, I can do anything. You know what I mean? And like, I did that. So now I'm like, oh, hell, he said, no, you're fine. I froze my ass off and I didn't die. You know what I mean? So like being uncomfortable just shows you your resilience as a human. Like those things that make us uncomfortable that we think might kill us really won't, right? Rejection, we won't die. Anxiety, we won't die. All those fears that, as both of you have said, they never come true. But even if they do, we're going to be okay, right? Because we are okay already.
And I think a lot of people, what they sometimes put these big expectations, and when they're not able to achieve something, they're like, no, that wasn't for me. So that being patient, and even if today you do that phone call, maybe tomorrow is two, but if you are patient enough to keep adding, and the great thing is that all of us at any age can develop new habits.
Yep.
All of us at any age can become physically active as well. All of us at any age can go into meditation. One of the apps that I'm using these days, which helped me, was a guided meditation with Chopra, which is the Deepak Chopra has a new app, and it gives you a 10 to 15, maybe 20-minute guided meditation, and it's super easy. Every day they have a new one, so you go through it. It's really helpful. I think that for those who are very competitive, for those who unfortunately, we have so many constraints right now. Again, the lens that you look at things, if we think that by fall we will be able to have a vaccine, or by December, just think about how conditioned you want to be by the time that this pandemic ends. Like a new person needs to be, coming out of that beautiful mind and body that you currently have. And if you think that as a goal, and then you look back, you want to make sure that you look back and say, okay, I was 1.5 years stuck in my house, but these are all of the things that I was able to accomplish. That is a good goal to have.
Yeah. And I also say to wrap it up, like, because I have to be careful personally of dangling that carrot for when things change, because they may not, right? So like, I have to operate from a place of, if nothing changes, do I like how I'm living right now? Am I proud of myself right now? Am I doing the best that I can right now? And if the answer is no, then I need to change what I'm doing right now. Not when that's like, I'm going to start the diet on Monday. Well, what's wrong with today? Right? Like, so having that, I'll do it next time or later or when this happens mindset is really dangerous, because we may never get there, right? Like we be virtual for the rest of our damn lives and wear masks forever. So like, I've got to figure out how to take care of myself now so that I can be the best self if nothing changes. And then if it does change, woo, right? But like, I can't wait for things to get better for me not to be crazy, because I went crazy a long time ago. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I love that. So to wrap the show up, I just want to hit 3 things that you said really quick, Alison. Chaos, being uncomfortable, and having that goal. So for the goal piece, Dr. Stephen Covey talks about it in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that your compass has to be facing north, because you have to know what direction you're going in. So if that's your goal, that's okay, but understand that you're going to go off course.
Yes.
Repeatedly. So just keep your compass pointed north, and generally things will turn out well. And as for the uncomfortable piece, a good friend of mine, Andrew Rose, a marketing expert who I'm hoping to have on the show sometime in the next couple of months, he told me that every year he goes off the grid for several weeks. Now, here's what I mean by off the grid. I mean, he literally turns off his phone, throws it in the bottom of his backpack,
God bless.
packs a handful of essentials, not including a tent, and he goes hiking. He lives off the land. And he said to me, if you can survive that, you can handle anything that comes up in a corporate office environment. And I thought, wow, that takes chutzpah.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Wow.
You know what? I'm walking away from my wife. I'm walking away from my kids. I'm walking away from my job. I'm walking away from everything else. Because you know what? The world's still going to be here when I get back in 3 weeks. And if something terrible happened while I was gone, well, I'll deal with it when I get back. And so that's an extreme example, but one that, you know, I admire the hell out of it. I would love to get myself to that place. And then the last thing about chaos, you know, you and I stand in the eye of the storm and we're pretty comfortable there. I think that's largely the nature of sales. You get smacked in the face, you get kicked in the leg, you get knocked down, you get your teeth punched in, somebody boxes you in the ears, your glasses fall off, your computer doesn't work, the deal's been delayed, the signature's wrong, and we just sort of stand there with that calm quiet. And if you're not a salesperson or you're not a business owner, you look at that and go, what are you doing? We're like, just working through the process, man. And so it's not always easy for people to grasp all that. So again, Paola, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today and hanging out with us afterwards. You're the first guest to just hang out afterwards and listen to the debrief. That was pretty cool. But to our audience, thank you so much for listening to Mike and Alison After Hours. And like I always say, people helping people. It's powerful stuff.
Thank you for joining Mike and Alison After Hours. Tune in next time for another great business owner sharing valuable industry ideas. Want to be a guest on our show? Contact us at answers@getadvantage.com.